So, I am going to say something controversial. This video is arguably more controversial than the videos I do about PMCs, and certainly people are going to get more angry about it. But I'm going to say this anyway. The SA80 is an excellent weapons system, and I say that unashamedly. Now, before all of the small arms enthusiasts, or should I say armchair experts, report this video to YouTube for hate speech, do hear me out. Now let me talk about this controversial opinion, but I think really the history of the rifle is largely self-explanatory. The SA80, for those who don't know, is the standard rifle for the British Army. It was introduced back in 1985, October, I believe, but the story begins far before then. Post-World War II, Britain is basically wanting to use the practical, tactical feedback it got during the extensive fighting experience in order to design a new rifle. It needed a new weapon system that would be most effective. Now, this rifle was designed to simultaneously fulfill the role of the Lee Enfield bolt-action rifle, to be accurate, used in World War II, and the various submachine guns that had become basically employed by the army at the time, which had the ability to fire automatically, the ability to be used at close range, that sort of stuff, and better suppression capability. These designs resulted in the EM1 and the EM2. These were developed using both British innovation and inspiration from what made German rifles so successful and effective during the war. The new rifle that they designed was pretty good. It had a built-in optics system. It was reasonably simple to disassemble. It focused on ergonomic value and was more compact. The EM2 was automatic, and that gave it the benefit of the SMG without having to sacrifice accuracy. It had a long barrel because it was bullpup, which made it really accurate. Now, for those who don't know what bullpup is, that's a rifle design which puts the magazine behind the pistol grip rather than at the front. So if we think about how I would be holding a rifle here, and here is the muzzle, and here is the rear of the weapon system, you basically put the magazine here instead of here, as it is on a lot of weapons nowadays. In any case, the EM2, which was, as I say, automatic and bullpup, used a unique caliber of round, effectively. It used the .280. Now, people are going to say, by God, that is the smallest round I have ever heard of being used in any sort of rifle. But that's in inches. It's what we would call 7mm today, because back then caliber was measured in inches using the imperial system. The EM2 would be the basis for the SA80 later on, and that came years later. The reason for this, the reason the EM2 wasn't directly related was because it had this unique British round. And after the new government came in, NATO standardization came in too. And the program of EM2 was discontinued after the rifle had only been in service for a really short period of time. NATO standardization at the time required rifles to be compatible with 7.62 caliber as a standard round. That's the 51mm round, not the 39mm used by the Russians for the Kalashnikov. Anyway, once NATO standardization came in, the round had to be changed, and therefore the rifle had to be changed because they weren't updating it. And so Britain took on the L1A1 self-loading rifle, a Belgian system. Now, in the 1960s, a new program came under development, and this took inspiration from the EM2. The program featured a bullpup rifle, so maximizing accuracy, now using a new caliber, the .485. Now this rifle was the XL64E5, which is essentially just the EM2, but it's got superior design. It's got the absence of clear wooden features. The British Army also developed the XL64E4. Now this looks a lot like the modern SA80 A3 because it's got this bipod, and it was used as an LMG. Anyway, fast forward to the 1980s, and you've had this basically weapon system in development for a while. They're evolving it, trying to make it better. It's still undergoing evolutionary development to be made better, and comes across the same roadblock as the EM2, NATO standardization. But this time, instead of scrapping the program, the developers simply chose to make the XL64E5 NATO compatible with the now in service 5.56 round. Now, once the ammunition was set, once the innovation was, I guess, improved, the improvements on the rifle really begin. Designers try to make it more ergonomic, try to incorporate all the features that the LMG variant had, a bipod system, for example. They try to make it all compatible with this single rifle. And they've been sort of adapting and evolving it for a long time. Now, after chopping, changing, weapon renaming, this program that's been going on for ages, the mighty SA80 program fully begins. They take these prior designs and try to fix the issues that have arisen from past development. Things like overheating when you're using different rates of fire, pressure issues in the gas pods, all sorts of issues that build up over time from natural evolution of innovation. Now, they did their best to fix them, and finally, the SA80 was ready, and it was accepted into service in 1985. The SA80 featured a standard version, which is the one you'll probably know, and an LSW, which is a light support weapon version, which is more compact, and also a cadet variant. Now, the SA80 could do a lot, and it took the place of a lot of different weapon systems, but the initial variant had a load of problems. The bipod struggled to lock, plastic parts disintegrated when they came into contact with army-issued insect repellent, mechanisms didn't handle dust or snow very well, rust set in really quickly in humid, sort of jungly environments, and jungly is not a word I know. This got it the nickname the Civil Servant. It never worked, and it couldn't be fired. Then the Gulf War came around, and Operation in Sand proved to be just as bad, basically. Dust became another big problem in the desert, and the lubricant used for the rifle stuck to sand really, really badly. Loads of complaints began to arise among pretty much everyone who was using the rifle in service. They said that the poor quality plastic furniture fell apart, the gun was damaged really easily, the magazine release catch was easily knocked and accidentally dropped the magazine at times, basically. The catch on the top cover over the gas mechanism was too weak to constantly sort of work, popped open, and it had to be taped down. Only 26 to 28 rounds could actually be loaded into the technically 30 round magazine. The springs were too weak, and this was something that was mentioned in training manuals, at least in regard to the earlier, I think, Colt-produced magazines. And it also had to be kept really clean at all times, because it didn't work when it wasn't clean, and it had any sort of dust in it. The lips had to be checked for dents, because otherwise the magazine would not lock in. The magazine was also made from aluminium, and therefore would deform if it was grasped too tightly. And during firing, it could basically choke the flow of rounds and result in a jam. The light support weapon had a small magazine capacity, and for its role, it overheated after about 120 to 150 rounds, and that was fired in bursts, and that's a ridiculously small number of rounds. The weapon systems were really difficult to strip, to deassemble, to reassemble. The gas plug easily jammed in place, and required an armourer to remove. The firing pin was too narrow, it would snap. The back of the trigger surface was flat, and with snow or dirt accumulating behind it, would literally prevent the trigger from pulling back all the way. The gun would not fire when you were in snow, dirt, or sand. Ergonomic issues came up, and the safety catch was not seen to be proper. The cocking lever, the cocking handle, the location was not really right. It was too stiff. The fire selector switch was also too stiff. Lubricant, as I say, stuck to sand really, really easily. Now you're probably going to say, why are you going to say it's so excellent? After all of this, that sounds like quite a few problems, and people were not happy back at the time. It was a highly evolved rifle that turned out to be really problematic because it had largely been used only in lab conditions and developed in lab conditions for a long time, to the point that people really criticised it when it was brought into service. Clearly, something had to be done, to the point that a report was drafted. And this report, which generally was seen to go easy on the system, found 50 urgent faults within it. And that's a huge issue for the government, for the army, for everyone. And then, basically, the saviour comes. In comes the SA85A2 to save the day, and there were changes made to the cocking handle, a modified bolt extractor, a redesigned hammer assembly, and a slight delay in the hammer's operation for continuous fire mode, and sort of improving reliability, stability, all of the problems that there were before, and also fixing chemical issues that arose often. A carbine variant was produced for the first time in addition to the LSW, and this modification, all of the fixing that they did to this rifle, really made it effective. It made the system far more reliable, far more useful, far less prone to failure, far more ergonomic. It gave the A2 a 95% success rate, which was hugely better than the A1 variant. And the majority of that 5%, stoppage or failure was not requiring of any sort of tool, just sort of standard stoppage drills. And when they also took that down to the lower 5%, that the sort of minority of that 5% that couldn't be fixed with merely simple stoppage drills, they found that usually it was due to improper weapons system maintenance. And last summer I found that, the A2, which is the one I have used, the cadet version, not a single stoppage. Now, this is where people are really going to get angry. The A2 has higher terminal performance, higher muzzle velocity, higher accuracy, less recoil than either the M4 or the M16 of the US of A. And they're going to despise me even more for this. It's more ergonomic. I think that's the truth anyway. Now, despite the fact it is so excellent, despite the fact that the weapons system really has become potent in the A2 variant, the Army then adapts it. They add the standard ACOG sights, which make it incredibly accurate at longer ranges. They add a standardization, which is the Vortex flash eliminators, if you're not going to basically put in any other muzzle modifications. Now, the A2, as I've said, is a really mighty rifle in its own right. It's really accurate because it's bullpup, it's ergonomical, and it works well. And yes, I'm going to keep saying it. It's simple to use. Yet the powers that be decided to improve it even more with the A3 upgrade package. Now, this hugely improves what is already an excellent modification. Already excellent modifications done in the A2 upgrade feature. But A3 goes even beyond that. It makes it really, really efficient, easy to use, and basically one of the most accurate, if not the most modern, accurate, ergonomic, and powerful rifles to exist. It basically brings in modification to the upper receiver, modification to the rail system, more optional add-ons, a vertical foregrip, laser pointer, torch. It also includes a weight saving of 100 grams, which is actually quite a lot. A new flat dark earth coating offering improved durability, better camouflage across various environments, which is really quite important. Beyond this, I'll just mention that the rifle is fed by the NATO standard STANAG? STANAG magazine, and it can be fitted with a socket bayonet, and that socket bayonet also functions really, really well as a fighting knife. And when combined with the standard issue scabbard, it can be used as a saw blade, a bottle opener, a wire cutter, and generally, on the rifle, the LLM01 laser light module, which is very good, is used for a laser. It has a selector, a safety that has 3 modes, which is safe, semi-automatic, and automatic fire. Plus, I've been told that the cocking handle can successfully open a can of baked beans, which is rather important when you're on ops. Nonetheless, I think even the A2 variant is incredibly useful. The accuracy of this rifle is incredible. The durability, now that it's been upgraded, is incredible. The ergonomics of this rifle, because it's had such issues in the past, the upgrades have been just amazing, because they have improved the rifle to such a degree because there were so many problems. So now it functions incredibly, and it's gotten to, a friend of mine compared it to Kalashnikov level durability. It really has improved in durability, accuracy, has excellent muzzle velocity, can be used really, really well, and it's particularly mobile despite its weight. it's just an all-round really, really good weapons system, and a lot of people criticize it because A1 was absolutely rubbish, but the fact of the matter is A2 fixed nearly all of those problems pretty much perfectly, made it an excellent weapons system, and A3 is and has done that even more so. So, say what you want about the SA80. It's better than most modern standard rifles, and in pretty much any aspect you want to measure, despite its perhaps odd look or ugly look to some people, I think it looks incredible and it functions very, very well. And I've said incredible a lot because it really is incredible how brilliant this rifle is. So I'm going to leave it there and wait for people to get very upset about this.